Wow, here we go. It is 12:05 and welcome. It is Friday, or I always see it on the Super Talk app. It says Friday. Do you see that when you log into? Who made that up?
I think that's a lovely Matt Murphy original for sure.
I see. Okay.
He loves his day puns and fun and whatnot.
Then I won't poke any more fun at it.
Oh, no, go for it. It's always fun to poke fun at him.
December 29th, 2023 here. Matt Murphy Show, and I'm Joan Jones. And Mason, thank goodness, is joining me today. You and I guess, draw the short straws because we're the ones that are here when the parking lot, there's like nobody here. It's
oh, my
just
goodness,
us.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I was here this morning for National Morning News for Dan Mandis.
Oh, okay.
Dan Mandis not here, though.
Right.
I was the only person here in the studio all morning.
How weird is that?
It's so weird.
So,
we had JD Hayward.
Oh, he was on.
Yeah, he called in over our access line all the way from Arizona. So I was monitoring everything, and it was very empty, and it was a little weird.
That is creepy.
A little weird.
It's creepy when that happens. Yeah. So we are on the cusp of a new year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and everyone's going to be out celebrating this year. But the new year is apparently going to ring in the same old way from the same old Democratic Party as we continue to see the attempt to steal elections and stop Republicans from voting for whomever they choose to vote for. So, Mason, that's going to be the focus of our first attention here on the show today. What else is coming up? Well, like we said, we are going to have this discussion with my sons, who are young gentlemen now. I guess they're gentlemen. It's so weird to think that I have kids that old. They're 28 and 30. And so we're going to follow up on what Cameron had been talking about with his sons in listening to the way he raises his children. I think we probably raise our children the same way, essentially the same way. And so what I'll be bringing to you is what it looks like when they're 28 and 30. And I think a lot of folks who listen to this radio station probably have the similar situation, have a similar outcome with their children if they raise them in the same way. Some of the other things that are on tap today, the rush of Chinese nationals that are showing up at our southern border. Why? And does this signal anything like really weird? If you saw some of the video footage from earlier, I think it was last week or maybe even the week before, the first time we actually saw it was all Chinese nationals. No families, like you keep hearing about the families that are. No, there was no families. It was just men, middle-aged Chinese men. And some of them had backpacks, but some of them, I thought this was the weirdest thing. They've been trudging through Mexico all the way up to our border, right? But they had luggage with wheels on it. I'm sure that was really useful. And I'm sure that they actually used that to get into the United States. Very weird. Also today, I'm going to be asking for a little bit of help in the new year. We're going to talk about the best movies to watch if you stay home for the new year and the things to do in the new year, for people like me who are kind of new around here. So let's get started here at 12:09. Joan Jones here, and I do want to hear from you, so I'm going to give you the Super Talk line right away, 615-737-9986. And you are probably feeling like it's Groundhog Day all over again because, yes, another state just dropped former President Donald John Trump from being on the primary ballot next year. Now, that decision, of course, and I know you've heard this, by the Secretary of State in Maine, Shenna Bellows. She says, and of course, I'm going to let you guess which party she's affiliated with. They just continually try to stop you from voting for who you want to vote for. Bellows actually recorded a video showing herself reading from a statement, and she wasn't doing a really great job. She was trying to look up at the camera, and while she was looking down, reading. And while she was doing that, she wasn't saying what was on the page. And it was like, okay, it's really junior of me to laugh at that, but I did. So she had the nerve to record herself talking about it. And here's what she had to say, too, about taking President Trump off the ballot.
The oath I swore to uphold the Constitution comes first and foremost. The weight of the evidence brought forward under Maine law in the Section 336 challenge that was brought made it clear that Mr. Trump was aware of the tinder he laid in a multi-month efforts to challenge the legitimacy of the 2020 election. And then, in an unprecedented and tragic series of events, chose to light a match.
Yeah, he chose to light a match. You know, I don't understand how we were upset like last week when it was Colorado, when it was 4 people who made a decision for an entire country. Now 1 person is going to make a decision for an entire country. It's so frustrating. And who is this? 6728 says, I thought the GOP was supposed to be the party of voter suppression. I mean, they've told us that over and over again. Didn't Georgia try to stop people from voting? That was jammed down our throats, and that was absolutely not true. But the mainstream media carried it on and on and on. Here's a little bit more from her video, the Shenna Bellows video today.
It became clear that January 6th was an attack not only on the Capitol, on government officials, but also an attack on the rule of law, that it was an insurrection, and that the U.S. Constitution does not tolerate an assault on our government, on the foundations of our government, and that Maine election law and the Constitution required, indeed obligated me to act.
Oh, it obligated her. Hold on, I want to go back to this part.
That it was an insurrection, and that, but also an attack on the rule of law, that it was an insurrection.
She's deciding for us what an insurrection is. And I got to say, she got it all wrong. Details on that in a minute, but she wrote a 34-page decision to go along with this. Here's what she said in that decision. I do not reach this conclusion lightly. I am mindful that no Secretary of State has ever deprived a presidential candidate of ballot access based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. I'm also mindful, however, that no presidential candidate has ever before engaged in insurrection. Well, there it is. She made that decision on what happened on January 6th. It's an insurrection because Shenna Bellows says so, and because the press everywhere says so. So this is what we were talking about yesterday, why it's so important for the language to be shaped, and they're shaping it for us. They shape that language around that word insurrection, so much so that every time some news people in some cities that are close to some capital in the northern part of the United States, whenever the word insurrection was missing, and it was called a riot or an attack on the Capitol, there were people who I watched say the word insurrection instead of what they were looking at. Instead of the word riot, they would say insurrection. Intentional. They formed this whole insurrection argument long ago when it was first happening. They knew where this was going. The word attack is not the same. The narrative was so important from the get-go, and they had to ram it down our throats every moment of the day. This man is disqualified from being a presidential contender based on what they call an insurrection. What are they afraid of? Let's go back and listen to exactly what it was that the president said, President Trump, that day. Now, I want to make sure you listen to this. This is from the NBC News YouTube channel. I looked it up this morning. Here's what they posted about what President Trump had to say.
Now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol. And we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them. Because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
That's what they said. That's the piece of audio that they're claiming is the insurrection part. But hang on. I mean, did you pick up what they missed? Where they cut it off? They left out the most important part, the part where he says, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. NBC clipped that part out of that speech in order to make you know that they're insurrection framing is what was actually going on. They did that. NBC News is rot gut insincere. They make it up as you go along. They follow the scripted programming that they read in their inboxes every day. It's not to say that it's news, because it's not. These people are stenographers for the left. Whatever it is that the left says, they will do it. They don't deserve a minute of your attention on the television, on the radio, or anywhere else. Now, here's the part of the speech that the left conveniently leaves out every single time they play audio from that day. They ignore it like it never happened. They discount it as being irrelevant. That's exactly what I was told by a former boss at a former job. This is not relevant, and we have to take the whole speech in context. This is what the president said.
Come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. Lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country.
Those are the words, peacefully and patriotically, and that was what the president said. They act like he never said it. They're trigger words for the left. And let's talk about the timing of this, too, because they love to say, and I mentioned this to Cameron just a couple of minutes ago, they love to say that these are independent decisions, that they're based on what some state residents said they wanted of their state. But can you ignore the timing of this? Colorado did it, and then Maine right after. And they always move in a pack because that's how rats move. They move in a pack. What do you think? What state's next? What state is going to be the next in line to pull this move to keep the president from being able to be elected? 615-737-9986. Well, I want you to know that probably most of you are guessing that it's California, but you'd be wrong. Unbelievably, California has declined to attempt removing former President Trump from the primary ballot there. The Secretary of State, her name is Shirley Weber. Last night, she certified the list of candidates, and she sent it off to the county officials. So California is less crazy than Maine? I mean, honestly, who would have thought that? This is part of her statement. She said, I, Shirley M. N. Weber, Ph.D. She's a doctor like Joe Biden. Secretary of State of the State of California do hereby certify that the following list contains the name of each presidential candidate entitled to be voted for in the Democratic, Republican, American Independent, Libertarian, Green, and Peace and Freedom parties. Never heard of some of those, did you? Presidential primary elections. They're to be held Tuesday, March 5th. And she went on and on. President Trump was in that list. So she's allowed it. But the former president's name had been included on the list despite Dr. Weber facing calls from the state's lieutenant governor. Her name is Eleni Koulanakis, and she wanted him to be removed from the ballot. She actually sent the Secretary of State a letter on the 20th of December after Colorado did it first. Then this secretary, the second in line, the lieutenant governor, sent another letter to say, hey, let's do this too. But they weren't going to be done. And even Gavin Newsom, surprising, Gavin Newsom is opposed to removing Donald Trump from the ballot. He said, and I quote, in California, we defeat candidates at the polls and everything else is a political distraction. Gavin Newsom is actually thinking his way through this situation. So I was watching Fox News last night, and it was so interesting to watch and what they had to say. And I'm going to bring some of that to you next. But be prepared to find some duct tape to wrap around your head because I needed it. I needed it last night while I was watching Fox News because of one of the guests. And I think you're going to need the duct tape too. Keep it here. The number 615-737-9986. Got your duct tape? Keep it with you. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes here on Super Talk 99.7.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
$12:23 here. Mason, I like the music that you choose. It's upbeat. It's happy. It's driving.
I
Or
like it
something
too.
like that.
It's
Yeah.
it's pretty fun. Keeps
It is.
keeps it up a little more upbeat for sure.
Feels good. Thank you. I love this. This is good. So, Matt Murphy's show here, and I'm Joan Jones sitting in for him. You can contact me at 615-737-9986. You can also find me on Twitter, or X as it's being called now. It's Joan Jones WTN. Very original. I wanted to just make a note because there was something that this lieutenant governor said, Koulianakis. She said she sent that letter to the Secretary of State on December 20th saying she wants Trump to be off the ballot. And what she said was, quote, "The Constitution is clear. You must be 35 years old and not be an insurrectionist." The Constitution does not say that, honey. It says you have to be 35 years old. That's it. Crazy. Just the craziness. On the super text line, let's see, this is Mike, and he said if it were based on what state residents wanted in the election process would take care of it. That is so true. Love this one from 0359. She said, my 14-year-old daughter says that if when Trump says peacefully and patriotically protest, he means attack the Capitol, then when BLM says we're going to burn your city to the ground, it probably means, let's start a peaceful protest. Let's do a little campfire over here. Things are going to be fine. But we know how that turned out, don't we? We certainly do. Also, somebody said a protest took place at the U.S. I have to read through that, and I don't want to just tell you what somebody else said without reading through it first. But here's the moment that I was telling you about just before we went to break there, that you need the duct tape for. So I'm watching Fox News last night. When this was all first reported, it was, they did breaking news. They came in and they announced that Maine now says that President Trump can't be on the ballot. And here's what happened. And so they bring in, of course, they bring in a group of people to talk about it. But, sometimes it just makes me want to jump through the screen and poke somebody's eyes out. And last night, and oftentimes when I see him, it's Juan Williams. Oh my goodness, he makes me crazy. He has a way of making me irrationally angry. Seriously, listen to his ridiculous blather about this last night.
It doesn't require in the Constitution a conviction. It's that someone would have participated in an insurrection. And I think that what you're getting here is, though, that it's pretty clear that the Republican base is responding to this as somehow their rights to vote for Trump being taken away from them.
Can you believe that somehow Republicans are responding that way? Somehow? Juan, that's what's happening. The left is trying to take away our right to vote, and it's so out in the open. It's so incredibly clear. We don't need for it to be hidden behind other things. It's what they're trying to do. And he says in the first part of this, listen.
It doesn't require in the Constitution a conviction. It's that someone would have participated in an insurrection.
It doesn't require a conviction? Are you kidding me? So all you need to do is say that something is an insurrection, and it is? Like saying this microphone that's in front of me is a book, so now I can just open it and read it because I called it a book? That's what the left has been doing with so many other things in these past few years. I mean, honestly, if I said right now that I'm a man, even though I've got all the body parts of being a woman, I've got all the every body part, every chromosome in me says that I'm a woman. If I say I'm a man, I'm a man. Voila. And you'd better go along with everything that I say with my delusion, or you're guilty of a hate crime. It's this very same thing when you're calling an attack an insurrection. Just because you say it's an insurrection, I've got to go along with it, or I am guilty of a hate crime. David in Bedford County, I am fired up about this. Do you have your duct tape around your head because of Juan Williams?
Oh, yeah. I've got a good idea. How many electoral votes is up there in Maine?
To be honest, I think it's 4. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's 4.
I mean, there ain't but 10 people that live up there, and he probably wouldn't get 1 vote out of 9. And I'm just going to tell you the truth. If I was him, I wouldn't waste my time with it. And if he does, because if Maine is the one that decides the election, he needs to lose, and it ain't going to happen. And if he gets into office, I'd just sell him to Canada and let Chris Hand broker the deal.
I hear you, David. But honestly, just letting them get away with it. I mean, my dad used to say, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So you give them Maine, they're going to take Colorado, and every state will collapse. And it will be just an insane way of holding our vote. It's not right.
You can't go to court and presume and thank somebody. You have to prove it, and it's been proven that there was no insurrection. I mean, I'd like to see that secretary go into court and just say, well, I assume that he done this or done that. No, you have to prove it.
Yeah, you do have to prove it. And you know what?
Right.
And David, thank you for the call. I appreciate you calling in. And I want to be able to tell you exactly what an insurrection is and exactly what an insurrection is not. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes here. And there's just so much more associated with this. And I do want to hear from you. I'm reading some of the text here, but I also want to hear more of you on the Super Talk line, 615-737-9986. I mean, this is driving me crazy. It's making me insane that people like Juan Williams can go on the television and say the most ridiculous things like he says. Of course, it's not going to play when I want it to, right? All right. Well, you know what? It's probably better that we don't hear from him a second time, right? Because my head's exploding. Okay, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to calm down a little bit, and we're going to revisit this in the moments right after this break here on Super Talk 99.7.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Wow, another really strong song. Is this like a band we know, or is it just, as Belle says, generic band?
Generic Band is a very, very
Yeah.
good band.
Okay. Very popular, too. All right. So first I want to address some of the people who are texting in on the text line. This is a good one. Joan, on January 6, 2021, a protest of several thousand took place at the U.S. Capitol, where only a couple of hundred people partook in criminal trespass with no weapons. Yes. Which was accommodated by some Capitol Police. Yes. No insurrection took place. Words should accurately mean things, especially in our judicial system. That's John in Lawrenceburg who wrote in on that this morning. Let's see. Can you still write in a name? Yes, you can write in a name on a ballot. However, in Colorado, the governor out there said that they would also not allow any write-ins of President Trump's name to be counted. So that squashed that. I love this. So if people label Biden an insurrectionist for the amount of illegals coming across the border, he could be excluded from the ballot as well. I can't help but to think, I mean, how long does that mess have to go on at the border before somebody does something about it? Not only should he not be on a ballot, but I mean, he should be kicked out of office for not, I mean, one of his, when they take an oath of office, it's to protect the people of the United States. There's no protection going on here in the United States. Let me just see if I can read a couple more of these. Do candidates have to be on all 50 states to run or to win the presidency? No, you don't have to. But I would argue that if you allow one state to go this route, other states are going to do the same. It gets out of control. It gets way out of control. And the rule of law has to be stated by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has to be the one to say, this has to stop. So that they can, now they'll find another way around it. It's like everything else they do. They'll find another way around it. And we'll be looking back on, whatever way they choose to do next, just like we do on the word insurrection being so prevalent since the day January 6th happened, that it has shaped how we've thought about what President Trump did. They'll find another way. There'll be another route that they'll take in order to get there. Juan Williams also drives me crazy. Also, I literally heard him with my own ears say that Jason Aldean wrote that song, that one about this small town. He thinks that's right. Juan Williams thought that it was about lynching black people. And he said that on the air on Fox News, that what Jason Aldean was talking about was lynching black people. He's insane. It's the principle, somebody said, in the foundation of our country, that a body formed by the election of our people. And that is so, so true. The last time that we took a president off the ballot was Abraham Lincoln. It caused the Civil War. Well, I mean, there's many reasons that the Civil War, slavery, I'm going to say it right now, slavery was the reason. Nikki Haley, take a lead from me. Let's keep Biden off the ballot because he's not giving up on holding his oath of office and keeping our borders safe from invaders. See, I think that's a very common thought. He's not doing what he should to keep you and me safe. Why are we keeping him on the ballot? It isn't the left that everyone, let me try that again. It isn't the left. It's everyone except the crazy MAGA Republicans that know he started an insurrection. We saw it live on TV, and all the Republicans are going to regret backing Trump. I don't think so. That's 0636. I think you've got it wrong. You've got it terribly wrong, and you need to go sit in a corner and think about that. These people are a cancer in our country, and they need to be, I think that's supposed to be eradicated. Okay. Trump is only being removed from the primary ballot. Couldn't the RNC name Trump the winner? Couldn't the RNC cancel primaries in those states? I think they probably could. There's no precedent set for this. We don't know what we could do. And I do not trust what's her name? Ronna Daniels. I don't trust her for a moment to lead the RNC in the right direction and make good on what's happening in other states regarding President Trump. I don't trust her for a second. Let's talk about what the definition of insurrection is. So I went to Merriam-Webster and I found out that insurrection is defined as, quote, an act or an instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. Now, if you look a little bit further down Merriam-Webster's definition, there's a note in the term that implies an armed uprising that quickly fails or succeeds. Now, notice the use of the word armed, right? Can you think of an actual insurrection which requires the armed forces to quell an armed resistance? The Civil War, right? There's also Shays' Rebellion, 1787. Thousands of men tried to seize weapons from a Massachusetts armory, and they had planned for months to overthrow the new revolutionary government. That insurrection involved arms, weapons. The Whiskey Rebellion, 1794, 500 armed men attacked the home of a U.S. tax inspector in western Pennsylvania. Now, in both of these incidents, President Washington had to put down the insurrection. It's okay to call it an insurrection, using thousands of armed troops. There were casualties. Some of the men who were resisting were killed. Now, these people who entered the Capitol on January 6, 2021, did so without weapons. The only weapon that I can think of being associated with January 6th, the attack on the Capitol, was Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd. I'll never forget his name. He used his gun to shoot and kill the veteran Ashley Babbitt. I think she's an Army veteran. He used a weapon. He used his weapon to kill Ashley Babbitt, a protester. No one else, to my knowledge, was arrested with a gun on their person from January 6, 2021. Now, those who are propping up this notion that what happened was an insurrection, they're doing so in an evil and demented effort to keep you in line, in lockstep, as they are with the left. And it is a sick and twisted ideology. Elon is in Cross Plains. Elon, tell me what you have a comment about the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court, we think that they're going to overturn this and get everything straightened out, but I don't know that they will. I mean, we thought that they would overturn or at least hear the case in 2020 about the stolen election, but they wouldn't even hear the case. So I don't know if they'll hear this case either.
You know, that's true. And one of the things that I think they could do is say, we're not going to take this case up. That would be devastating.
Exactly. That's my fear. I mean, everybody says, yes, this is not going to stand, but are we sure about that? We thought the same thing in 2020, and that fell through. So
it did, and it's the same. It's the same people that we're talking about, the same court.
Exactly.
They could.
That was my comment, though.
Thank you. You know what they could do is they could kick it down to the lower courts first, and then decide to take it up at some point.
It's true.
Yeah, they could do that. Elon, thank you so much for the call. They could do that. They could say that the lower courts have to deal with it first. That would take time. And that would mean, now in both cases, in Colorado and in Maine, I'm pretty sure in both cases that the governors, the lieutenant, no, it's not the lieutenant governor, Secretary of States in both of these situations have said that they would keep Trump on the ballot until the lower courts have decided, or until a court has decided. And if that's true, then if they kick it down to the lower courts, it would have to work its way through that court and then be taken back up at the Supreme Court. That would take time, and that may clearly would affect what's happening for the primaries. It would have terrible implications. So, you know, we look to the court to do the right thing and to take this issue up and to make a decision quickly. It's a matter of life and death for this country. They've got to do it. Let's go here. I think the left is trying to trigger the right and to force rioting in the streets. You're probably not far off. I mean, the rioting never happens on the side of the right. I mean, have you seen the right ever riot? The only people who were rioting after George Floyd was the left, and they tore up the streets. They ruined our country. Keep Biden off, including Kamala Harris, since she's the border czar. Yes, that is true. The DNC named Hillary the candidate in place of Bernie Sanders. You know, that is true. I remember that now. Bernie Sanders, you know, the guy with COVID right now. He's letting us know that he has COVID. I'm sure that's interesting to you. They haven't seen an insurrection. I'm sure that they will if we allow these leftist officials to keep pushing their nonsense. And somebody corrected me. Ashley Babbitt was an Air Force veteran. I do apologize. And somebody else, Todd, said he murdered her. He did murder her. Did anyone watch that video? And I know it's grotesque and it's morbid, but it's informative. If you watch the video of what happened that day, that he shot her in the way that he did, it's so clear. This is a guy, by the way, who just months before that happened, left his gun in a bathroom stall. The most irresponsible of Capitol Police officers, and he's the one who shoots Ashley Babbitt. 5536, don't forget about the planted pipe bomb. Oh, yeah. There were two. There were two planted pipe bombs. There are cameras all throughout Washington, D.C. There's not a place in Washington, D.C. that doesn't have a camera. They have camera footage of who did this, and they're not revealing it. They're not talking about it, and they certainly are not catching whoever it was that left the pipe bombs in front of, it was the RNC and the DNC. Although we didn't really hear about the DNC until later. We knew the RNC was about to be bombed. I feel like that's a fake story. Just me. Let's talk here to Gary in Greenbrier. Gary, what do you say about this?
Well, first off, I have a political science degree from years ago.
So you know.
I'm a retired military officer. I'm pretty educated as far as how this republic's supposed to operate. It's been a struggle to keep the republic. We've had secession movements early on from Massachusetts, New Jersey, even little Rhode Island. There's been all kinds of struggles. South Carolina twice. There's always been a struggle amongst the states. But what's so dangerous about Colorado and Maine right now is our entire republic, not a democracy in the French or any other sense, our entire republic stays together and votes for an executive branch by state. It's a state form of electorate. And if you've got two states that say we're going to negate the person that you would, we know, vote for, like the state of Tennessee, then now they're pushing themselves on another state, and that can push this country to another war internally. They
Absolutely.
don't have that right. The man is not charged. He was not convicted. He was cleared in an impeachment. This is anarchy out of a state. This is very dangerous.
It is very dangerous. I agree with you 1,000%, Gary. There will be rioting if they continue on this path. There will be rioting. And that's not like the right. That's just not who we are. Gary, appreciate your call. Thank you so much. Hopefully we won't get there. Jesse is in Lebanon. Jesse, what do you have to say?
Well, I'm personally very much to the left of most of the viewers of this radio show, but I agree, this Colorado court decision is catastrophic for the republic, for the democracy, however you want to put it, because my personal view on this is he should be allowed on the ballot. There's obviously 80 million or so Americans who want this dude on the ballot. And if he wins, he wins, and I know who my neighbors are, and if he loses, he loses. And that's that. We should all be given a choice.
So let me explore just how left you are just for a second. Did you vote for President Trump or did you vote for Biden?
I voted for Biden, but let me throw a caveat on that real quick. Is basically I'm done with the war machine as it is. This whole, I will not be voting for Biden by any means because of this.
Bet you didn't expect him to be doing what he was doing, right?
I didn't agree with anything he's done for the past 50 years, but I had guilted my mother into voting in 2016 for Bernie Sanders in the primary. And that's how long, the 4 years, and then she kind of guilted me into voting for Biden. But we're both.
Oh, I see.
Never voting for his butt again. Excuse my language.
Well, butt's not bad, so it's okay. No poopy words. No. All right, Jesse. Thank you so much. And I would encourage you. Yeah, you too. And a happy new year to you. And hopefully this will get solved and we will solve our differences without riots. We will solve our differences at the ballot box where it should happen for whomever it is that we want to vote for. We do have more stuff coming in on the super text line. I do want to get through that in the moments ahead. I hope you'll stick around. I'm Joan Jones here, and it's 12:50 on Super Talk 99.7. This kind of fits my mood, like anger, charged up. You know,
This is definitely my favorite music on the on this out of all the shows.
Really?
I love all the shows.
Yeah,
But this one is definitely one of my
I
favorites.
do like this.
This gives me to anybody who's been to the Predators games. This is like the vibe that I get from every time I go to the
Nice.
arena and whatnot.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to go yet?
No, I have not. I admission, like full-fledged admission. I'm a crazy Flyers fan.
Oh.
Yeah. But that's because I came from the Philadelphia area.
That makes sense, yeah.
And the Broad Street Bullies, and I mean honestly, I buy into it. But I want to go see a Predators game. I want to go see when the Flyers come here.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a great game for sure.
So let's try to do that. We should try to like get everyone together and go.
That would be really cool. Just fill up a whole section of just
Yeah.
WTN listeners. That would be really cool.
I love that idea. Good one, Mason. Thank you. 12:53 now, and first of all, let me go to this one. This caller, this texter, 9313 says it kind of defeats the spirit of free and fair elections. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to disenfranchise you from going to the ballot. They don't want you. They want you to be so mad that you don't go to the ballot and vote for anybody. Cedric is in Kentucky. Are you going to vote whether or not they're doing what they're doing, Cedric?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and vote, but I mean, I'm not, I don't claim myself to be a Republican or Democrat. I mean, I sat back and I'm almost 65 years old, so I've seen a lot. And I sat back and I deal with these politics for about 35 years, but that is wrong for them to try to cut him out as far as him being able to be on the ballot. And like I said, put him on there, and if he wins, he wins. If he loses, he loses.
Right.
But here's my question, though. if ex-President Trump loses the election, okay, do you think that there would be another situation of, the election was stolen and that violence will occur? Do you think that it won't occur if he does lose the election?
I can tell you that I believe there's going to be an uprising in the streets, at least on the streets, if he does lose, because we're not going to be fooled by it again. We're not. We voted a guy into office who can't walk up a flight of steps, who can't put two words together and make sense of it, who calls a lid at 11 o'clock in the morning on regular scheduled work days where there's nothing else going on. They'll put a lid on him at 11 o'clock because he's got the porridge and a nap to take. We elected somebody who cannot lead this country because he's not mentally capable. And if we did that one time and we do it again, man, you know, even the left is worried about this guy. Yes, I do think that there's going to be an uprising if he is elected again. It wouldn't be right. And you and I know it.
Oh, I understand that, but I know that I know your name's Joan.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I do. I believe with all my heart that you are Christian, and I've been in the Scripture myself for more than 40 years, and so this is my question, just briefly. So all this other stuff that's going on, because everybody has got skeletons in the closet. I don't care where you're. I mean, how strong you are in the Word of God, if you're a pastor or whatever. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got skeletons. So, but as far as a Christian, your morals and standards, you all are willing to elect an individual, okay? And I ain't got nothing against him. He can do what he wants to do because that's his personal stuff. But an individual that also deals with, escorts, prostitutes, and does things that's against the will of God on his wife and different stuff like that. And is this supposed to be a lesser evil or something like that?
You're drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't believe anything that they say about him. The prostitutes.
You don't believe that the situation with Stormy Daniels was real?
Oh, I do not. She's a clinger-on. She's a clinger-on that managed to find a way to create a lawsuit. And everybody was willing to believe it because of ideology like that says...
So anything that anybody says that pertains to any of his wrongdoing, you do not believe it. Is that correct?
No, it's not that I don't believe it, but I believe that the left is doing everything they can to make him look horrible. They'll do anything. So if we believe it, it's allowing them to train how we think about President Trump. What he does with his life is his business. Okay. I'm understanding now. Go ahead. I'm listening. No. What he does with his life is his business. If he did those things, he'll deal with it with the Lord when he meets him in heaven after his death. He'll have to answer for those things. He will. But what he's doing, what he has done for our country, the things that he did to keep our country safe, the Abraham Accords, oh my goodness, moving I'm sorry. We do have to get going here, but he did so much for our country. He secured the border. He made us oil independent. We were having wonderful gas prices, interest rates. We could afford things. We never were at war. I'm okay with that.
The last question I have for you, Joan.
But only a second. Hurry up. Go.
Okay. You don't believe that anything that he said pertaining to getting people back and putting people in jail and all that stuff, you don't believe that none of that's going to take place. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't have any proof of it. And Cedric, I appreciate the call. You're making me think about it. So I appreciate that you are. We'll deal with more of this because there's a bunch of people online. Stay right there. We'll get to you next. It is 1 o'clock here on Super Talk 99.7.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Israel continues to target Hamas in central Gaza, but Israeli forces say they're also battling attacks at the Lebanon border. The U.S. is concerned of a wider conflict. A U.S. warship stationed in the Mediterranean shot down a drone and a missile by Iranian-backed militants in the Red Sea. ABC's Britt Clinnett is in Tel Aviv.
If there is a wider conflict, it will impact U.S. interest in the region. Obviously, it will impact security. And now these Houthi rebels, they're operating in Yemen. They claim the strikes are in protest of Israel's war against Hamas and campaign in Gaza. Now, Houthi leader Mohammed Ali al-Houthi, he told ABC News that the group will escalate strikes on any ship linked to Israel, whether they're destined for Israel or whether they have some kind of affiliation to Israel.
Maine's Secretary of State has ruled former President Trump's name will not appear on the state's primary ballot, finding Trump is ineligible due to his role in the January 6th insurrection. ABC's Jonathan Karl on what's next.
He is going to immediately appeal. That's what the campaign is saying. They will appeal to the Maine courts. They're also attacking the Secretary of State. And it's important to point out this is a controversial decision. California rejected efforts there to take Trump off the ballot. There have been more than 30 states where there's been a movement underfoot. And so far, the only place we've seen this actually happen was in Colorado and in Maine.
Ohio's Governor Mike DeWine today vetoed a bill that would have banned transgender minors from receiving any gender-affirming care before the age of 18 and prevented transgender girls from taking part in girls' sports. DeWine says those decisions are for families and medical professionals to make.
These are gut-wrenching decisions. These are gut-wrenching decisions that should be made by parents and should be informed by teams of doctors who are advising them.
The legislature could still override the veto with a 60% vote. You're listening to ABC News.
Give the star in your life the brightest gift in the world. Name a star after them. This is Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For $59 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, you can name a star for birthdays, weddings, or even memorials. Over 45 years, we have named millions of stars for celebrities and individuals from around the world. The star you name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Visit starregistry.com or call 800-282-3333.
For retirement and solidify your future. Get straightforward and objective advice that can help you make the most out of every dollar you've saved for retirement. Beacon Retirement Strategies with Pete Benson and John Maxon. Saturdays at 7 a.m., Sundays at 9 a.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Right now, Window Nation offers you 50% off all window styles plus 0 interest for 5 years. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. From the Beacon Capital Management Weather Center. We will see scattered flurries, snow, and rain showers as we head through today. Many of us not expecting any accumulation, but we could see a quick coating in some spots. Higher elevations in the plateau could end up with about an inch in the highest peaks of those areas. Now, as far as roadways are concerned, not expecting much, if any, accumulation on those.
1:05 here on a fired up Friday. It's the 29th of December. This is the Mike Murphy Show and Matt Murphy Show. I just renamed him. I'm sure he's going to love that.
It's his evil twin brother, Mike.
Yes.
Mike Murphy.
The Matt Murphy Show, and I'm Joan Jones. And apparently you are just as fired up as I am about this issue. I mean, there's people on the line. There's so many people texting in. Here, let me give you the line because I'd love for you to jump on also and have more to say about this. 615-737-9986. Let's see. We've got 2666. Oof. I would change that number if I were you. The DOJ is nowhere to be found unless it's actually someone on the right. You are correct. You are correct. There's also, let's see. We need to organize and start labeling leftists as anarchists. That's from 4931. You know, that is the right way to go. It's time for us to start shaping a language around other things. But we don't get the assist from the media that the left does. If the left wants them to call it an insurrection, they'll do it. Everybody will do it. They'll have you doing it because the media has an insidious power to do those types of things, and they take that power seriously. Tim is in Nashville. Tim, President Trump is off the ballot in Maine. What are you thinking about this?
Well, first of all, welcome to Nashville. It's great to hear another awake person on this channel, along with Matt and Chris. All three of you are going to do a bang-up job. I know y'all.
That's nice. Thank you.
Listen, I'm going to vote. We're going to go out and vote again, and hopefully this time. Listen, Joan, can I ask you a question?
You certainly can.
What was the real insurrection?
What was a real insurrection?
On 11/3/2020. What is that date?
11/3/2020. 11/3/2020.
When they stole the election. That was the real insurrection.
I see. Yes. Yes.
I mean, that's you know, the fascists love to project. Whatever they're doing, they throw on the other side. The real insurrection happened 2 months before January, and people peacefully gathered to voice their opinions about it. Then this whole FBI infiltrated crowd was all concocted, and this whole narration has been spilled over us. Many of us, probably you as well, we knew about it the day that it happened, but we were shut down on social media.
Oh, yes, we were shut down on social media. We were shut down in every corner. If you said it out loud, if you were in a grocery store, you got shouted down. If you wore your MAGA hat, I saw this so many times in Washington, D.C. People walk on the street with their MAGA hat on. They would get punched from behind in the head. It happened so many times. There was also an incident in Washington, D.C. where there was a crowd of people that were sitting at an outside, like a bistro area on the outside of a restaurant because they still had to in 2020. And somebody threw firecrackers at them because they were wearing a MAGA hat. I mean,
they have twisted everything. The last gentleman that called, he had a pretty good phone call. He was trying to bring in the morality of Christianity, but the reality is this: that God uses people that are not so pure, and Donald Trump may be not so pure, but guess what? He's the man to lead us. But we got to take. When Trump is gone, this is what we need to really worry about.
Yes,
is we the people, and Trump always says this. It's we the people have to do this. One man can't do this whole thing.
You're right.
It's we the people. And you're doing your part. We're all doing our part by listening and having conversations. We got to get out and vote, but we've got to bring awareness. They're going to try to steal this thing again, Joan.
They are going to do it. They're going to try.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they do. We can't freak out if it happens that night. There's no way Joe Biden has more votes than Donald Trump. You know that instinctively. I'm speaking to the choir. I know that. The listeners know that. There's no way in hell that Joe Biden got more. He got more illegal ballots, but he didn't get legal votes.
Yeah, well, they were able to do that because they got those ballot boxes, the unmanned ballot boxes, and we saw them being stuffed.
2,000 mules?
I saw 2,000 mules, yes.
Yep. They did it with the voter rolls. They did it with the ballot boxes. They did it with the Pennsylvania illegally changing the election rules. They did it when Georgia shut down at 11:30, and then they came back in the back door and put the suitcases full of ballots through the machines 3 or 4 times. They did it in Arizona when the technical difficulties happened. They did it with a week election rather than a one-day election, and they did it with the fraudulent Dominion voting machines. They might say, to keep on saying that hasn't been proven. It has been proven. They were actually connected to the internet. It was an act of war through
on the United States
interference.
It absolutely was. It absolutely was. Tim, you are you are fired up. See, what I want to make sure is this time, if we have those ballot boxes, I want them to be secure. I want for Republicans to be out there 24/7, taking turns, watching the ballot boxes, making sure that they are true, that nobody's stuffing them like they did the last time.
And I'll gladly go do that, but then they'll accuse us of affecting of election interference.
Right. They'll say that we were intimidating people.
Yeah, correct.
You are correct, sir. Tim.
Welcome to Nashville. Keep on spreading the good cheer. We will. Hey, where we go one, we go all.
We go all. All right, Tim. I love it. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Happy New Year to you. All right. So we have Jim in Dixon. Jim, you wanted to talk about voting. Tell me what you want to talk about.
Well, like the man just said, the last election was stolen. But how in the devil are we going to stop them from doing it again? All the ballots they counted were shipped in there from God knows where. We got to stop that. If we don't get Trump back in there this time, our country will be communist within 6 months.
I agree with you. So then how about that effort that we were just talking about with the caller before you, Tim? We have to get out there and protect the ballot boxes. And so it's going to take for, the citizen army that we are to go out and protect them, to watch them, to keep the cameras on them, to keep people standing by the boxes and watching them 24/7.
Well, what I see coming, if this happens again, I see like another civil war. People's going to rise and move in on these voting places and count the votes themselves to make sure they're right.
Well, self-policing is honestly the only way it's going to happen. It's going to be the only way that it happens. I mean, how is the only way that it's happening that people are being escorted out of the country, being turned back around? It's those guys that are down there, those civil patrols that are out there saying, "Oh no, you don't." They're the ones that are keeping people out. The United States is just allowing them to come in. It takes us. It turns on us to be the difference.
Well, I fought in combat for this country for a way of life, and I will proudly stand in a firing squad to shoot these people that commit treason.
Firing squad. Wow, that's a new one. I mean, it's an old theory,
that's
but
what our Constitution calls for. If you commit treason against our country, you're put in front of a firing squad and shot.
Where did you serve, Jim?
I said that's what our Constitution is called for.
Right.
If you commit treason to our country, the penalty is firing squad.
But did I hear you say that you served this country?
I'm sorry?
Were you in the military?
Yes, I was. I stayed in there for 12 years and had to get out on medical because of my injury.
Well, I thank you for your service to our country.
Well,
And
thank you, and
the commitment
Happy
is
New Year.
And Happy New Year to you too. Thank you for calling. And the commitment is that we're going to keep the freedoms that we have because that's what we should do. Let's go back here and read some more of these text messages. Lines are open, 615-737-9986. The Dems are playing chess. They're trying to prod Republican states to remove Joe from the ballot so that they have a reason to replace him. Now, they could replace him. They could do it. And the way that they would do it is through, somebody mentioned the 25th Amendment. I saw a texter who texted that. and I have to move the microphone a little bit in order to do this because I'm looking at a different screen. So it clarifies the 25th Amendment of the United States Constitution deals with presidential succession and disability. Okay, you got me? Like, I'm listening. It clarifies that the vice president becomes president if the president dies, resigns, or is removed from office through impeachment, and establishes how a vacancy in the office of vice president can be filled. Okay, you had me. You had me until it was the vice president takes the place of the president, because no, just absolutely no. Kamala Harris would be a disaster. I can't even imagine the disaster that she would be. It would be so much worse than it is right now with Joe Biden. So the 25th Amendment is off the table. I don't think it's going to work. What if states, this is the woman who said that, or the person, I guess, 3999. What if a state declares, due to the 25th Amendment and the political inaction of the vice president and cabinet, that Biden is not on the ballot? I don't know that we can go that far with inaction of the vice president and the cabinet. That's not spelled out in the 25th Amendment, as far as I have read it. Stephen in Clarksville. Stephen, you have an opinion on what's happening here and what's happening with the state of Maine and Colorado kicking President Trump off the ballot?
Yes, ma'am. But it all alludes to one thing that I'm not I would call a conspiracy theory, but you've heard of world government, right?
Oh, yes, I have.
Well, it stems from there. You know that Mr. Biden, he's a globalist. He's not a nationalist. And they're doing everything they can to push this country under the world government. And these people are so demonic that they will push this whole world into a third world war. That's why Trump's name's been coming off of those ballots, because Trump is not a globalist. He's a nationalist.
That's right. That's right. America first.
Exactly. That's where we should be. We can still be good neighbors, but take care of ourselves first.
Yeah.
And, and that's why I tell people, look, I served in the military for 20 years. That's beside the point.
And thank you for your service.
No, that's okay. Thank you. I think I owe the U.S. that. But anyway, you see, what's going to happen, the man was talking about Civil War, and he said, but you got to understand that the GIs are to protect the Constitution of the United States. Mm-hmm. And if they're going to try to use our military to institute this globalization, I always talk to the young soldiers here at Fort Campbell. I said, what do you protect first? And they say the Constitution. I said, there you go. You're going to have some courage. So when they tell you to go against it, you're going to say no. It takes courage.
It does take courage.
To have freedom. It takes courage to have freedom. What did Patrick Henry said? Give me liberty or give me death.
I love it. Yes. Yes.
Right.
But we have to be strong enough to have that. We have to be strong enough as a country, as Republicans, or not even Republicans, just as people who love this country.
Exactly. That not only say, but I'm going to put this and I don't mean to preach, but who love Jesus and their nation.
Amen. It's not going to be settled by a political vote. It's only going to be solved by hearts turned to the Lord.
In prayer. Jesus puts up and he puts down.
Yeah, he sure does.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm going to let you go. You have a great New Year.
Stephen, Happy New Year to you. Thank you for calling in. All right, a couple more of the text messages here, and then we'll move on. But I'm stuck. My whole plan for the day is completely exploded because you guys are so fired up about this too, and I'm glad you are. Let's see. Sounds like the left is afraid they won't get away with stealing an election again. That is so on point. It is on point. They're obviously fearing something. They fear Trump being on a ballot because they know what it means. They know what it means. I don't care. I know that there are some people that believe that the only way the Republicans can lose is if President Trump is on the ballot. I've heard that spoken here on the airwaves here. I don't believe that. I believe that even if we do think he is the most flawed human being in the world, gosh darn it, you're not going to take away who I want to vote for. And honestly, I mean, that's why you're seeing his poll numbers go up and up and up, because the more they try to tamp him down, the more we're saying, stop it, knock it off, arm's length, get away. It's who I want to vote for. You can't tell me that I can vote for any other Republican, not just this one. It's not fair, and it won't stand. And I love that the people who are calling in and texting like crazy, I can't read them all, but I love them. I'm so happy to hear from all of you. Coming up, and we'll get back to this if that's what we want to continue talking about. But I do want to talk about all the Chinese nationals that are crossing the border. It's insane. What's happening? We'll talk about it in just a moment. It's 1:20 here on Super Talk 99.7.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. 1:23 here. And yes, this is the Matt Murphy Show. And no, I am not Matt Murphy. I'm Joan Jones. And Mason, I was, listening to Chris Hand talk about, having a face for radio. Now, when you talk, can the listeners see you? Do you turn on your
Not on this
camera?
show, unfortunately. No. He's known as Headless Bell on Matt Murphy's show for a reason, because he doesn't show his face on camera. And so through how we have everything set up for the stream and everything like that, we don't have his camera set up for this show, unfortunately.
I understand.
But if people tune in tonight, I'll be working on The Drive with Brian Wilson's show, The Drive, tonight with Matt Murphy, and I will be showing my face on that one.
There you go. I think it's important that people see who we are.
Yeah, it humanizes us a little bit. We're not
I
just
think
some
so.
errant voice on the radio somewhere.
Talking head.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, just a couple of things remain in my head about this whole issue about President Trump and about him and the person that he is, and whether or not he's worth our vote and worth the fight that we would pick in order to allow ourselves to vote for him. I do believe, like that one caller was saying, that God works through broken vessels. I mean, it's all over the Bible, right? Of course he does. And I do believe that President Trump, at the time that he was elected in 2016, I believe he was standing in the gap for us. I believe that he was there for such a time as this. I do believe that. I think that he stopped, his presence stopped something much more sinister and huge from happening. I believe that his purposes were served at that time. And also, there was somebody else who texted in and said, "Thank you, Father God, that this here United States of America is one nation under God. We trust you, Father God, to protect our representative republic." We ain't getting out of here without a wing and a prayer. I mean, we're not. And so thank you for that prayer. And I hope that you too pray for the country. And, you know, we're told to pray for the leaders. And maybe that's the hardest thing. That is the hardest thing, but it's necessary. It's necessary. What you pray for when you pray is a whole other issue, but who you pray for, we should do. Okay, that's that. 1:26 now. And I don't know about you, but I have become just a little bit numbed to watching those big crowds every time a camera goes down to the southern border and you see huge crowds of people invading the southern border. It's almost numbing. Like we've become desensitized to that same scene being on the television over and over again. But what got my attention right now is who's crossing this border illegally, because increasingly it's Chinese nationals. Customs and Border Protection said that there has been a record number of Chinese nationals illegally entering the U.S. through the very porous, not closed, like Alejandro Mayorkas likes to say. They are crossing into the U.S. illegally every single month. And now the number of Chinese nationals coming in illegally in November just broke the record, which was set the month before in October. And guess what? October's record beat the record that was set before it the month before. So September, October, November, it just increases and increases and increases. These people are crossing in, and they're crossing in from a country that doesn't like us very much. In fact, they hate us. And they've said, Xi Jinping has said over and over again, that he's going to dominate the United States. He has said this. Could this be the way he's going to do it? By sending all these Chinese nationals through our very porous border? I mean, they're not hopping on an airplane and coming over the normal way. They're not coming in and trying to become naturalized citizens. They're not taking a test and learning the language and learning our history. They're not doing it that way. They're crossing the border illegally and through the porous southwestern United States. And they're ending up in other places in America, you know, on a free ticket from Biden on a bus, on an airplane. They're ending up in all kinds of cities across the United States. There were 7,245 nationwide encounters with Chinese nationals by immigration officials throughout the entire country in November. And that's up from 7,164 in October. So by comparison, check these numbers out. In 2021, there were just 450 southwest border encounters with Chinese nationals. In 2022, it was over 2,000. So we went from 450 to 2,000 to 7,245. So there's this Daily Caller reporter, and I love how she framed this question. She asked the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, and it's Tennessee's own Mark Green, earlier this year, about these Chinese nationals who are entering the country illegally.
Yeah, what evidence you have that some Chinese nationals crossing the border are connected to the CCP or PLA? And then another question, would impeaching Mayorkas actually fix the problem, or does the rot go deeper within DHS?
The policies are very clearly Secretary Mayorkas', and he's been made aware multiple times of what has happened. The Senate's hearings, too, have been very comprehensive with him, pointing out his own failure to understand what's going on at the border, et cetera. But they've educated him in the process, and he has not acted. So I believe that the major fault lies with Alejandro Mayorkas. In terms of the verification that the individuals being released into the United States come from or have ties to the PLA, it came from a sector chief, and I'm going to leave it at that at this point. We have a classified briefing coming up on it in the very near future. Right here.
So that was Mark Green, Tennessee's Congressman Mark Green, talking to that Daily Caller reporter. It's terrible I don't have her name, but she has certainly framed that question well, really great. Yes, he said the Chinese nationalists are coming in, and they've been talking to it about this with the border sector chiefs. Wow, it's been incredible. There's more about this that I want to tell you about, but I got a break here. It's 1:30. More to come here on Super Talk 99.7.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
So 1:34 here on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Joan Jones. I'm sitting in for Matt Murphy. And this is kind of a funny day for me because my daughter, who's 23 years old, she's married, she lives in Maryland. She's experiencing Braxton Hicks contractions. So she, while I'm sitting here talking, I'm saying, all right, how do you feel? Oh my goodness. Do you have this? have you done that? Are you going to the doctor? Very unusual. So if there's dead air, it's because I left and got on a plane to go back to Maryland to see my daughter. Woo!
Completely understandable.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be able to hold the show as well as you do, but I will do my best.
So crazy right now. So I apologize if my like attention goes somewhere else for a moment. I do want to bring a couple of things to you. One person texted in 0994. The Chinese can't leave their country without CCP permission. That is true, right? I don't know that to be true for sure, but I do believe that that's true. They're not allowed to leave their country without permission. So obviously they have permission to find their way to the border of the United States. I wonder if they have, instructions for what to do when they get here. I mean, it seems logical, right? There's also another one. Oh, where are you? Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. I can't find it. There was another really good one that I wanted to bring to you that I thought was excellent. There's so many comments, and I just love it. 615-737-9986. Okay, so we're on the issue of these Chinese nationals coming through, and the chairman of the House, it's the House Homeland Security Committee, is Tennessee's own Mark Green. And he said that, yes, some of these guys, these Chinese nationals, do without a doubt have connections to the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Liberation Army. And he knows that because a Border Patrol sector chief told him of their connections. Yet the Biden administration, through the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, is dithering, has done absolutely nothing to keep us safe. And this folly that we saw this week about the Mexican officials planning another, they meet with the Mexican officials in Mexico. Now they're planning on another meeting here in the United States next month. It's a puppet show. It's a puppet show. They look like they're getting something done, even though they're just holding meetings. I mean, how many times have you done this in your own workplace? The meetings take up so much time. It's impossible to be productive. And they're using this as some form of a substitution of actually doing something about the border crossers. And it looks like they're getting something done. And we already know that issue of fentanyl crossing the border with the illegals that are coming across, it didn't even get addressed in Mexico this week. Fox News said that they read the minutes of the meeting, and there was hardly a mention of fentanyl crossing, and they don't care. They don't care that your children are being killed every day by this stuff. They don't care that my nephew was killed in the prime of his life and left behind a fatherless toddler because of fentanyl. They do not care. Now, it's important that you understand that I don't hold anything against the people of China. The people of China. I hold everything against the people who come here illegally. Who else is coming through that border? We don't even know. From the Daily Wire, the surge has included a 1,000% increase in illegal immigration from a number of different countries, including Afghanistan, Ethiopia, the Dominican Republic. The record high increases in illegal immigration straining major cities like Chicago and New York. And you've seen the mayors of those two cities, and I have the audio from it this week, whining and crying about how they're so overwhelmed. Chicago just passed a measure this year to provide $51 million in funding to house and feed migrants. And 50 places of worship in New York City are now being used to accommodate foreign nationals. Now, multiple public opinion surveys already indicate that voters disapprove of how President Biden is handling the border. There's a Fox News poll. It surveyed more than 1,000 registered voters in June. 62% of the people said they disapprove of the way Biden is handling the border. 35% approve of the way he's handling the border. So that pretty much tells you, how we feel about what's happening at the border, and we see it every single day. I want to stop here just for a second because somebody's called Nancy from Hermitage, and Nancy has a comment about Stormy Daniels. And this takes us back to the previous conversation. Stormy, go ahead. What do you want to say?
The truth finally came out about Stormy Daniels, the guy that called in and was so supporting Stormy's lies. But the truth finally did come out.
Correct.
It didn't make mainstream first news story, but it did come out that she was lying.
She was lying, and she has to pay back the money.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And And her lawyer that was prosecuting Trump, he's in prison.
He's in prison because he was not just doing that. He was stealing the client's money. The people were paying him to do things, and he was doing them. It was a conservatorship, I believe. It was a conservatorship case. And he was taking the money for the person who was supposed to be in the conservatorship and using it. He stole the money.
Yes.
So
the man that called in earlier in total support of Stormy Daniels' lies and her stories, he must be watching MSNBC.
Oh, yeah. Or CNN.
Or CNN, because the corrupt media, just like the resurrection, they only telling half the story. They're butchering the speech.
Yes.
And all they do is get the lies out there, and the rest of the news media plays on it. But the truth did come out about Stormy Daniels.
Yep, sure did.
And I hope that guy's listening, because he was wrong.
Yep. Nancy, thank you.
Ma'am.
I'm so glad you called in. Thank you, and have a great new year. All right, so let's go back. And I'm glad she did that. I'm glad she called in. Back to the story about the illegals crossing the border. Texas has decided that it's going to take matters into its own hands, right? So Governor Abbott goes and signs legislation. It was about 2 weeks ago, I guess, that makes entering the U.S. illegally a state violation. And that empowers Texas authorities to arrest illegal immigrants anywhere in the state. So what does the Biden administration do about that? What do you think the first step is that they have announced that they're going to do? I mean, I know you know what it is even before I say it. They're going to sue Texas to stop them from keeping people out of the United States. Because SB 4 is unconstitutional and it will disrupt the federal government's operations. Hang on. The federal government has honestly, what are they doing? It says, we request that Texas forbear in its enforcement. The Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Brian Boynton told Abbott in a letter. That would really be great if the federal government actually did operations to stop people from entering the United States. They don't. They assist them. Once they get here, they assist them. They show them where to go. They take them to places. They give them things. They give them free phones. They give them food vouchers. They fly them on flights that you and I should be able to take. Instead, they're getting these flights for free and sending people to places all over the United States. The law that he just signed, that Governor Abbott just signed, comes after another one that was signed in 2021. And that one allows police in Texas to arrest and hold immigrants who enter the country illegally on trespassing charges. And so far, 10,000 immigrants have been put in jail for trespassing in Texas. Now, that strains Texas's resources as well, right? Because they have to jail these people. When they're in jail, they have to feed them, right? They have to house them. They have to provide basics for them. The Biden administration is doing everything it can to encourage people to come to the border, not to keep them out. And this notion of all these meetings, meet in Mexico and then they meet again in the United States, they're not doing anything. It requires action. It doesn't require a meeting. President Trump handled this pretty quickly in a very decisive way the minute he got into office. Don't you just wonder why Congressman Green and others are just sitting on their hands? It's a hair on fire moment in this country. We're being invaded. And not only are they not doing anything to stop it, they're encouraging illegals to just drop into the country. And then they're busing them all over. They give them those plane tickets. Now, listen to this. This is Chicago's new mayor. His name is Brandon Johnson, begging. He's begging for help with these migrants, with this crisis. And yes, he believes this is a crisis.
But we have reached a critical point in this mission that absent real significant intervention immediately, our local economies are not designed and built to respond to this type of crisis.
Oh, boo-hoo, buddy. Didn't you support it when the former mayor, Mary Lori Lightweight, declared that Chicago was a sanctuary city? All that virtue signaling is getting you down now, hey, buddy? Well, the same thing goes for New York City. That's where Mayor Eric Adams is being beat up by his constituents to do something about this.
Our residents are weary. Our residents are angry. Our residents seeing the impact of the migrant and asylum seeker issue, how it is taken away from the resources that should go to the day-to-day services of running the city. We did not walk out from D.C. with any level of optimism that anything is going to drastically change. It is clear that for the time being, this crisis is going to be carried by the cities.
Yeah, it's going to be carried by the cities. That's your buddy in the White House. He's not hearing you, boo. And they don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about your big city budget being all busted by the illegals. They just don't care. Darren is in Columbia. Darren, what do you have to say about this issue?
Yeah, I was listening to this YouTuber the other day. I don't remember his name.
Okay.
But he had a whistleblower on that was a security guard riding on buses that Abbott was sending up to New York and Chicago.
Okay.
And his job was to just do security. And he told his story about what's going on, and I don't know if you know about this, but Governor Abbott is paying $5,000 per head for 50 people on every bus to be shipped on buses. And the person who owns the busing company is a friend of Governor Abbott's. And I don't see how it costs $5,000 per head to take a bus trip from Texas to New York or Chicago. And I thought that was quite interesting. He was a matter of fact about it, that this is going on.
Well,
he does agree with what Governor Abbott is doing
right,
as far as shipping them, but he's raising the alarm. Why is Governor Abbott wasting taxes from the Texans' taxpayer dollar at that amount for a bus station company that got a contract that's friends with him?
It's a good question. I don't know that story to be true, and I will look into it, Darren. I will look into that story. If you could remember the YouTuber's name, or if you've got, maybe you can search the history on your computer and figure out where you were.
But I'm not near my computer. I'm driving right now.
No worries. No worries. Okay,
I think it was Real Truth something.
Real Truth something. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll write that down.
Yeah, but and the whistleblower also said that the people on the buses had the permission to get off the bus anytime they wanted to, but if they got off, they weren't allowed back on. And he said they were getting dropped off left and right all throughout the United States, up to New York. And
where was the bus originally headed?
They were the buses he was going on they were going to Chicago.
Okay.
And he would ride 33 hours there with them as security, and they would fly him back to Texas.
And who employed him?
I don't know that. I have no idea.
So was he being
a whistleblower? He was paid.
He was paid, but was he paid by the state of Texas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was.
I'm going to look at the story, and if other people know anything about the story, please inform me as well. Darren, thank you. Yep. I'm going to look it up. Thank you, Darren. Hey, Mo in Nashville. Happy New Year to you, sir. And what do you have to say?
Happy New Year as well. With all the tracking of illegal immigration, I'm just curious, who were the first illegal immigrants?
Who were the first illegal immigrants? Don't know. Do you know?
Yes. I don't know. That's why
okay.
It's such a challenge tracking. I'm just curious.
If you knew that, if you knew the answer to that question, how would that inform you? What would help? What would that help you understand?
To try to get to the root of something with most problems, just trying to see how we can actually best manage it all. But that's why I like to start with the origin of anything.
Well, if you think about it, let's think about it logically. The places that would most likely have the most or the first people who come to our country illegally would be the people that can cross a mass of land to get here, right? They're not going to fly in and be illegal because you've got to identify yourself to get on a plane. So it's likely that we're either talking about Canadians or we're talking about Mexicans that come in, right?
Okay.
I mean, logically, that sounds right to me.
Well, also to Europeans as well, when we first got here as well.
But we didn't come in illegally. I know for sure. I've looked at the passenger list for the people that my descendants, my ancestors make that coming in on airplanes and by a ship from England and Wales. That's where my family comes from. And I've seen, they come in that way. They've got their identification. They come in the country. They take the test. They become naturalized citizens. And then I'm born here, and I'm an actual citizen of the United States. So that's how yours probably ended up too. They did it the right way. Mo, appreciate the call. Thank you so much. 150 here. There's so many more people who are calling in and texting in. Let's see I don't know where we're going to go next. I really don't, because I love reading these and I love talking to you. And with more of that, I'd love to just stick on this. Robert De Niro said something recently that just cracked me up. And I'd love to bring it to you, along with some other crazy things that are going on. Let's talk about all that next. It's 151 on Super Talk 99.7. $153 here at Super Talk 99.7. This is the Matt Murphy Show, and I'm Joan Jones. So, in the mashup of things that we've been talking about today, President Trump is one of them. And let's see, 4872. I'm not a fan of Trump as far as his character and his personal morality go, but I'm a huge fan of his policy positions. Love this part. Ready? We're not voting for our next pastor. We are voting for president. Character and morality are second. Policy positions should be our biggest concern. I do agree that policy positions are very important. But we do have something to declare. I mean, it's not a reflection of who we are that we vote for the president, a person who reflects our own character, we're voting, we get two choices, essentially. We get two choices. Which guy is better? Which guy is going to lead us out of economic disaster that we're in right now? Which guy is going to protect our borders? Which guy is going to allow oil to be drilled on our land so that we're not paying exorbitant gasoline prices and so that we're not depleting our reserves of oil and then trying to restock them at higher prices. An insane notion. I mean, it's clear to me who that decision is. Somebody else. If people were coming over the border during the Trump administration, too, and the fentanyl was pouring in then, too, I agree with the caller of Governor of Texas is making money off of all of this. We don't have any proof of that. We're asking for proof. If you've got proof of it, I'm all ears. Tell me about it. I think that Mo was trying to insinuate that the original European settlers came illegally and took over native lands or some such nonsense. Okay, yeah, I get that. You said that to fly on an airplane, you have to identify yourself. According to the Biden administration, that is not the case because of illegals that are crossing have paperwork, and on their paperwork it says no name given. That is true. It says no name given they're flying them into New York City and to other areas on the taxpayer's dime. That is true. And I know that because, and you've probably seen this too, a lot of people on Twitter, also known as X. I really can't get used to saying X. It's not doing it for me. And I hope Elon changes it back.
I like Matt Murphy's, he calls it the X machine.
The X machine. I do like that.
Is it more of an entity fill?
Yes.
Yeah, it just makes it a little more interesting in my opinion.
It does. So we've seen all over Twitter people who have taken pictures, maybe over the shoulder of an illegal, and they've got their papers in hands, and that's exactly what it says, that their paperwork says no name given. Well, and that's another infuriating point about this whole thing is that you and I have to follow rules, but they don't. They don't have to follow rules at all.
They're also not having to pay to get there. I think there are more illegal immigrants that have gotten to see New York than I will ever be able to visit in my lifetime. I've wanted to go for a while, and they get to go for free.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. Go when it's a little better.
A little less wild.
It used to be that the big draw was the cowboy, the naked cowboy guy, or Elmo being very awful on the streets, at Times Square. That's what used to draw our attention. Now the streets are just filthy. The stores are empty. People are rotten mean. I wouldn't want to be in New York City to save my soul, honestly. Somebody else said, and this is Todd, said, none of this is free. This is a problem. The U.S. citizens pay tax to provide government services in accordance with the Constitution. The misses of free travel, healthcare, illegally not securing our borders has a real cost. The real loss is to the taxpayers, and any suit should be hearable by the Supreme Court due to this clear loss. Yeah. I mean, the Supreme Court should take it up, but what has to happen is that it works through the courts. Like, there has to be people who bring a suit and say, I'm being harmed, I'm being injured by this policy, by what's happening. And then it'll wend through the courts. And then, if you lose, you take it to the Supreme Court. You could appeal it at some point in the process. But it's not just that the Supreme Court's just not going to take up something that doesn't cross their desk, right? So it has to cross the desk. And that's what I'm talking about with action. We have to get ticked off enough that we take action. And there have to be lawyers. Hello, Cameron. There have to be lawyers that take these cases up, and they have to do it pro bono. We don't have just money pouring out of our pockets to pay for this stuff. We need pro bono. We need people to do it for free, to take these issues up, and we need quality people to do that, not people who are morons like Jack Smith going before the court and losing every time. No, we need people who can actually do actual work. Okay, now I've talked myself silly. And Robert De Niro, by the way, this is just the last thing I want to say about this. He said his hatred of Donald Trump is so all-consuming that he would rather have an incapacitated president. He said if a Joe Biden on a gurney would be a better choice than President Trump. Well, okay, buddy. If you're not liking it, there are so many other places to go. Jane Fonda wants to go to Canada. Join her. I mean, honestly, the two of you could start up a new business. Ugh. 1:59 here at Super Talk 99.7. I've got my sons coming up next. I hope you stick around to talk to them with me here on Super Talk.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Russia carried out a series of air attacks across Ukraine. More than a dozen people reported dead. President Biden condemning those attacks and renewed calls for Congress to pass the supplemental aid package for Ukraine. ABC's Justin Finch has more.
An hours-long Russian airstrike across Ukraine overnight, wreaking scenes of fire and destruction. From air sirens blaring in Ukraine's capital city to miles away in the seaside city of Odessa, where firefighters were rushing to help families at a burned-out residential building. Ukraine says Russia fired more than 150 missiles and drones over the course of 10 hours, and that its air defenses shot down most of them, but some got through.
Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows ruling that former President Trump is ineligible to run on Maine's primary ballot for president under the 14th Amendment rule due to his role in the January 6th insurrection. Trump's campaign vowing to appeal the Democrats' decision. Today marks the busiest air travel day during the holiday period. The TSA expecting 2.6 million passengers to pass through airport checkpoints. The roads also packed, but severe storms are impacting millions coast to coast. A statewide emergency is in effect in North Dakota after an ice storm put the freeze on nearly everything. And volatile weather is also leaving its mark along the Pacific coast. ABC's Will Carr is surveying the damage in low-lying areas of Ventura County, California.
Storms brewing in the Pacific, producing waves more than 30 feet high, slamming the coast from San Diego up to San Francisco. Residents now dealing with the aftermath. Homes and cars covered in debris. First responders searching the waters from the air and using jet skis, warning people flocking to see the water show to stay away and be alert.
Investors in a selling mood on Wall Street on the final day of trading for the year. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey there, 2:04 here, Super Talk 99.7. This is the Matt Murphy Show. And I'm Joan Jones. It is 2:04, and this is, that day where, we're kind of talking about issues, but really, it's almost the holiday. So, but the coolest thing is that so many people are texting and calling and having something to say. So I just love it. Earlier today, you may have heard Cameron, and he had, in fact, twice this week, he had his kids on. He had his oldest son today, his older son today. And then yesterday or the day before, he had his younger son on. They're 9 and I think 14. And they were talking about how things run in their household. And it made me think, his son seemed respectful. Every time they spoke to him, they said, yes, sir, no, sir. They talked about having a household that was run, it seemed very strictly, but with love, with compassion for one another. And it reminded me, that this is pretty much how we raised our children. My husband and I raised our kids in the same environment, in a faithful environment. We're a conservative family. We're a Christian family. And so hearing him talk to his sons, and asking them questions to see where their heads are at this point, I thought, wouldn't it be really cool if we talked to my sons who were raised like that? They're 28 and 30 years old. And so we can hear how they turned out. And maybe Cameron can see where his kids are headed. With me on the line. Now, I don't know if I should tap the line. Yes, I should. I'm asking Mason how I should do this. There we go. Tyler's on the air. Hello there, Tyler.
Hi, Mom.
Hi. So Tyler is 28, and Trevor is also on the line. Hi there, Trev.
Hey.
Hi. Okay, so you both are on. I love it. Hi, guys. This is a nice little family reunion, but we're missing 2 people. Hey, do you guys know? Go ahead, hon.
Go ahead.
No, say what you're going to say.
I was going to say, with everything that's happening with Jolie, could be another one soon. But
yes. So there you go. That's what I was going to talk about. You guys, you may be an uncle soon.
I'm already an uncle.
You are.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was talking to your sister today. She was actually supposed to come on with us, and she is having Braxton Hicks contractions. She's not feeling very good. She said, Mom, I think I'm going to beg off. So I said, great, I'll bug the boys. So, okay, guys, Cameron, and I don't know if you got to hear him earlier today, talking to his older son, and they were talking about how they were raised. And, I thought it was really interesting because he did the same thing that we did with you guys. And that was when it came to their phones. He said, essentially, that phone is mine. I bought that, and I'm going to look at that phone, and I want you to be accountable for the things that are said in your text messages. So whenever I say, I want to look at that phone, you're going to have to hand it over to me. And did I do that?
Well, Tyler can speak to that more than I can. I was the most boring kid when it came to my phone.
That is true. Tyler, I pretty much made you miserable by looking at your phone all the time, didn't I?
Well, you did. However, I will say that it was always you, because Dad got bored listening to my text messages, because he always used to say hey, how are you? Good. How are you? What's up? Not much.
Yeah. But, okay, so now looking back on that, Trevor, do you think that was helpful at keeping you accountable?
Yeah, I think that was probably really helpful at keeping me accountable. It made me think every time I picked up my phone, okay, if I say something, how am I going to be explaining what I said to later? And is my explanation for it going to be a good thing? Is it going to be an upright thing? Or am I really going to have to take account for myself later on? It was a good idea.
Tyler, what do you think about that? Did it feel like it was a good thing now? Like, looking back on it now, do you see it as a good thing?
Well, looking back on it now, I do see it as a good thing. However, when I was however old I was when I got my first one, I thought, man, what a drag. My parents are going to be watching. It's going to be wow. But I now that I step into this more adult role and I'm trying to start a family myself, I certainly think that it's a good idea. And to see that other parents don't care as much about what they do on their phone, what their kids do on their phones is concerning to me and to my wife too. And I'm sure everybody else in our family.
Yeah. One of the other things that we used to do, which, you guys love to talk about this in a teasing manner now, but we made a deal that if I was not home and Dad was a UPS driver in Philadelphia, and if I was not home and you guys were off, and Dad was at work too, you could watch TV. You could watch an hour of SpongeBob SquarePants all you wanted, but you had to give an hour on something educational back. So what were the things that, Tyler, this is like, I know how you're going to answer this already. What were some of the things that you watched that were educational to balance out what you watched on SpongeBob SquarePants?
Well, I like how you say watched, because you know that I didn't read all that much. So, so what I watched was mostly Animal Planet. I watched some of the Nat Geo stuff, but it wasn't news related at all. It was mostly animals. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, I was big into the whole sharks thing, and I still like sharks, but not enough to just turn on the Animal Planet, except during Shark Week, of course.
And what's great about that is that you always, you have good recall about the things that you watched, and you pull out these little facts every once in a while, and you still surprise us by the stuff you remembered.
Yeah, you used to tell me that I should have done the Youth Jeopardy games because of how much useless information I retained from some of those shows.
It was perfect. Trevor, what did you like to watch on those times that you had to balance out your I don't know. I know I say SpongeBob SquarePants because you guys, every episode back and forth, and you can repeat some of the things that they say. So I know you watched a healthy amount of that, but what did you balance it out with?
Yes, I definitely got way too much SpongeBob time. I think anything can turn into a SpongeBob-related meme for me. It's awful. You should have cut me back even worse, honestly. When it wasn't SpongeBob or some silly show, it was history, and it was How It's Made. I think How It's Made was one of my favorite shows as a kid. Just, watching the different explanations of here's a paperclip going through the factory, and here's how it gets put together. It's like that kind of stuff just fascinated my my engineering mind, I guess.
Right. So, and that's how you ended up being an engineer. Your phone, by the way, is doing this cutting out thing. Maybe you need to get closer to a repeater or something. I don't know. It sounds weird.
All right.
Yeah. So Trevor's an engineer. He's an engineer for. Can you explain it for me? Because I always say it wrong. You're a principal software engineer. Go ahead.
That's right. And I'm responsible for the architecture of a website for a media company, basically. Actually, at this point, a couple different websites, because as we go along working with the technologies that we're working on, the business keeps shoving things our way and saying, here, how about you renovate this with your technology ideas? Like, okay, we got this. I work with an excellent team, and I love doing what I do.
And it's Dow Jones and the Wall Street Journal that you work with. Right?
Yeah.
Am I okay?
I wasn't going to say it on the air, but thanks for saying it.
No, it's quite all right. And Tyler is in the position currently of starting a new job. And he's going to be, I don't even know what it is that you're going to be doing, to be honest, but it's with an insurance company. And he's one of the most, and both of you, I could say this about both of you, you're both honest, you're forthright, you're good-hearted and humble. And those are the things that parents like to see of their grown-up children. So you guys both make me proud. And
thanks, Mom.
yeah, and I mean, you know how much we love you. But I just wanted to maybe get your perspective on the things that you're seeing now in the media, what media is it that you watch? I rail against the media so much because of the dishonesty of mainstream media. And I know neither of you are really involved with watching mainstream media now. Trevor, where do you get your information from?
Well, I mean, I have internal access to, the Wall Street Journal through my company. So if I'm reading any major publication, that's probably the one. I mean, aside from that, I'm a longtime subscriber to the Daily Wire. So I love watching Ben and Andrew Klavan's podcasts on the Daily Wire and the Daily Wire News. Obviously, I've been listening to your show for a couple of weeks now. So, through this entire week anyway, so I might tune into Super Talk more often. But I balance that with, entertainment I get from YouTube primarily. There's a lot of great channels out there. And, I think that pretty much covers it.
All right, Tyler, what media? Now, see, you have a whole different view on media. So where do you're big in podcasting. You like podcasts.
So I love podcasts. So there was a period of time that I was working in construction or I was doing something with my hands. So I wasn't sitting at my desk, which really enabled me to listen to all of the information that I could possibly ask for. So I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I listened to Jordan Peterson, who is now part of the Daily Wire, but when I first started listening to him, he wasn't. I listened to Joe Rogan. I listened to a few comedians like Theo Vaughn and Bill Burr. There's a few other smattering of podcasts I listen to, some of them business-related, some of them golf-related, believe it or not. I get a lot of information through podcasting now. So
you're also into Tim Pool.
Tim Pool's another big one. Tim Pool I like a lot because you can tell that he goes by things not by party affiliation, but how he actually thinks and perceives the world around him. So he's had a lot of very, very interesting guests on his show. He's actually hosted Joe Rogan on his show. And among other members of Daily Wire, he's actually had on his show too. So if you're looking for, somebody who likes to talk to all sides of the arguments, he's had big lefties on there too, and has had a couple really good debates. He's a good person to listen to.
But you're not going to be listening to anything anymore except Super Talk 99.7, right?
No, it's going to be going on 24/7 on my phone. Absolutely. That's all that's going to be. I'm actually listening to I was listening to the show earlier today on the YouTube stream. So.
Okay. And so tell me, this is interesting. So you were listening to me, I guess, right? Is it weird to listen to your mom on the radio?
Yeah. Look, I've listened to you talk all my life. I am not a stranger to it. I listened to you back when you're on, the earliest channels back in Philadelphia. I listened to you when you were in D.C. This is the first time you've been in this kind of ring
format,
I think,
yeah.
Which I honestly think that this is probably going to end up being your bread and butter. I think you're actually going to enjoy this kind of format more than any of the other ones that you've worked in. And it sounds like you're really enjoying this one.
I do enjoy this. This is good. You know what? The coolest part about this, which is the coolest part of, my earlier job in Philadelphia, the radio station that I just loved, is the interaction with people. So, people are calling all the time and they're texting all the time. And in fact, I would love for people to text if they've got a question for you guys. 615-737-9986. I would love to hear, if you've got questions. Trevor, is it weird to hear your mom on the air?
I have to say that I've gotten used to it. Just like Ty, I've been listening to you for so long that it's just, your radio voice has grown on me, I guess. And what's funny, of course, is that when you get outside of the radio room, your regular voice, it has obviously a lot of the same tones and stuff, but it's not your radio voice.
It's so
funny to hear you come on the air and sound so official, and then in real life and the rest of the world, you just sound like Ma to me, I guess.
I think it's the processing on the microphone. That's got to be it.
Oh, it's the processing on the microphone.
That's right. Yes, I'm glad you understand that. I'm going to put you guys on hold for a minute. Can you hang on? Do you have time?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to assume that you'll do that, Mason? Yes, you will. Cool. Okay, so we won't drop you. You'll stay right where you are. Coming right back with more from Trevor and Tyler, my sons, here on Super Talk 99.7. It's 2:20.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
That sounds like a breaking news sounder, doesn't it?
It's like that. It also reminds me of like a medical show almost.
Yeah.
That's the
I
big
like
one
it.
that it brings to.
Yeah. Hey, it's 2:23 here, and this is the Matt Murphy Show. Joan sitting in for Matt, and I've got my two sons on the line, and it struck me while we were in break there that both of you guys and your sister, y'all went to college. Did you hear that? I did, y'all. Y'all went to college.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Fitting right in.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. You guys all went to college, and you came out the same persons that you were when you went in. Now, so many of my friends have kids that have gone off to college, and when they go, they come and they have this weird ideology all of a sudden, and it's left ideology, it's leftist ideology, and now you're seeing all these the campuses erupting with these pro-Palestinian and it's actually anti-Semitic protests, and and now there's polling out there that shows I think it's 1 in 5 people who go to college think that Osama bin Laden is a good guy. It's just weird. And you guys went to college and came out still being the same Christian conservative guys that you were when you went in. Tyler, did you feel any pressure while you were in college to change how you felt about politics or the world?
No, so I went to a business college, so I feel like it was inherently more conservative than most. Obviously it's an American university, so it's going to have those groups, and there were pride flags, and yes, there were drag shows there.
There were?
And yeah, oh yeah, actually, I remember seeing flyers for them, and it was the first time I heard of a drag show. So I was like, are we dragging cars? Are we racing here? I don't really know what's going on. So so I looked the flyer probably a little bit too long to realize what it actually was. But no, I didn't have any friends who pressured me that way. It was pretty easy not to.
What about teachers?
So there was one teacher that I had that I know. Now it was a politics course. So you're going to have those kind of teachers in politics courses. I feel more regularly than not. And what I actually remember is having opposing ideas to the majority of the people in the room. The room was actually separated pretty. It was self-separated actually between the people who were conservative-leaning and left-leaning, and it seemed to be that way from day one. So I thought that was interesting. But my professor pulled me aside a couple of times to actually say that she was happy that I was able to stand up and say the contrary opinion to her and most of the other opinions in class, because she doesn't get that all the time. And she actually appreciated that someone else stood up and said something to the contrary.
Wow, that's cool. All right, Trevor, you went to a different college, and you were in New York, which tends to be more liberal. Did you find any pressure like that, either from students or from faculty?
I would say that a lot of what I experienced in college that came from the left probably came more from the student body than it did from the teachers. Now, we're talking about a heavy science and engineering university. When you're in computer science 101 and you're talking C++, there's not really any way that you can inject politics in that. But there were some, humanities, arts, social sciences courses that I had to take, and there was a little bit of left-wing politics thrown in there, but we didn't really get very deep into it. One thing that I did experience was a lot of classmates who, had heard that I was Christian and were coming up to me with the usual, if God, then why do bad things happen? OMG, this disproves God, And it's like, yeah, you guys can just whatever. I'm not going to entertain this because these are not even good arguments.
I remember that you went to a church off campus, and they would send a bus to pick you up. But you were the only one from the campus on the bus.
It actually wasn't a bus. It was just a group of students who, and by group I mean literally me and one other guy, who would just go over to the church that was maybe 20 minutes from campus. Yeah, we went just about every Sunday. It was a Presbyterian church, I believe.
That's so interesting. When you see what's happening now on campuses across the country, what's your reaction to that, Trevor?
I am just really disturbed, I would have to say, by a lot of what it is that I'm seeing, especially the anti-Israel stuff. Oh, my goodness. I don't think that most of the students who talk about these things even know what it is that they're saying or know what it is that they're crying out for. I think that most of them have just heard their friends saying these things, and they pick it up themselves and go along. So they're a bunch of lemmings, I guess we want to call them.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Come on.
Tyler, your reaction when you see people on campuses advocating for the death of the Jewish people?
Well, if I had kids who were of the age to go to college right now, I wouldn't send them to college. First of all, you're seeing a lot of these just lunatic people who have these ideas that a sane person would never come across unless you go to university, apparently. But I think that it's a bad investment anymore. You don't get the job right away that you're hoping to get. No one really tells you that you're going to struggle for a while. The system doesn't allow you to struggle. I read something recently that 40% of student loans aren't being paid right now, or they're behind on their payments. 40% of people who have student loans right now are behind on their payments. And it's just absolutely absurd. So I would tell my kid to get into a trade. I would say, be an apprentice, learn a skill.
Yeah.
And most of these jobs, these trades jobs, won't be able to be replaced by AI. So,
yeah.
you have crazy job security with that too. So, work with your hands, do something physical. It's really beneficial, much more than it has been.
Yep. Guys, that's it. It's 2:30 and I have to take a break here, but I loved having you. This makes me so happy.
This was great. I'm glad we could do it.
Trev?
Yeah, same here. See you for Sunday dinner, Ma.
That's the advantage of having at least one of you close by. I'm still working on the other. All right, guys, love you. Thank you so much.
Love you, Ma.
Absolutely.
And what's really cool is that I heard from somebody here, 4719. Your sons sound like fine young gentlemen. Thank you so much, because they are, and I just love them. And Cameron, there's where your kids can go. Keep up the good work. We're coming back for the last half hour here, Super Talk 99.7.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things you hear me talk about frequently on my radio show that has been going for over 20 years in the Nashville market is that annuity sales are not necessarily a great thing for the end investor. Now, if you go to an investment firm, a lot of times you'll get that. The first thing that they recommend, an annuity. Banks and investment firms recommend these for one really good reason. And many times that reason isn't the best thing for you. It's commissions. It's a huge moneymaker for the investing industry. This is why I think it's so important that when you work with an investment advisor, that they not be paid on commission. It creates a huge conflict because it creates an incentive to sell you things that may not be in your best interest. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. We don't do anything on commissions. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Oh, I love the upbeat music. Mason, you're so good at this. 234, Super Talk 99.7, and the Matt Murphy Show with Joan Jones sitting in. Matt is going to be along in just about a half hour. He drew the short straw too. Like, what happened with him? He's the only one around here.
Yeah, only main host sticking around for the end of the last show of the year.
Yeah. From what I understand, it's a company holiday.
It is a company holiday, yeah.
Wow.
I was not made aware of that this morning.
You clearly were not. You have a long day.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting one for sure.
Yeah. Well,
not complaining, but it's been an interesting one.
You'll make the big buck. That's what it's all about.
That's
right?
the goal.
Yeah. All right. It is 2:35. I just want to I hate that people are on the line and they didn't get to say what they wanted to say. And Kenny has been on the line for so long. So, Kenny, I'm going to give you a shot here to say something real quick because we're going to start talking about the new year in just a moment. So you had a comment about the insurrection, and I'm using finger quotes.
Yes, this is actually Jimmy, not Kenny. He got my name mixed up.
I'm sorry.
I want to try to do this as quickly as possible. I want to take exception respectfully to something you said. Secession of the southern states was not insurrection. For there to be insurrection has a rebellion against lawful authority. There has to be a law in place for there to be an insurrection. There is, never was, has been a law. You can't cite within the 1787 Constitution the article that states that secession was unlawful or illegal. You can't cite an amendment thereto or a law that states that it was, or even to this day is unlawful or illegal. So that could not have been an insurrection.
There you go.
Further, what I want to say is the war being over slavery, that's not true either, because the southern states that seceded, each one of them was free to carry slavery on. There was no need for them to go to the war. The North, the states that remained in the Union were free to pass national legislation that made slavery unlawful or illegal. And so they had no need to go for a war over slavery. The issue was over secession, not over slavery. Further, if you go to, let's just say that it was a moral issue. The North, or the Union, was fighting, or was busy exterminating the Native American Indian. At the same time, they were claimed to be fighting to free the slaves. So all of that is kind of mixed up. It's not really, it's a false narrative, not saying that any of that was right, but I'm just saying legally, the South was on the right in the secession, because for secession to be unlawful or illegal, there has to be a law that states so, and law grants jurisdiction, and if no law is there is no jurisdiction. That's all I had to say about that, because it's something dear to my heart.
All right. Well, I appreciate that you called in to say it, Kenny, and I appreciate that you stayed online waiting for me to talk to you as long as you did. Happy New Year, sir.
All right. You too. Thank you.
All right. And Diane is in Nashville. And all I see on this is that you have a comment about Biden. Tell me about that.
Well, I think I said a little bit more, but anyway, my comment is that I was watching someone last night on television talking about, they've come up with at least 24 million that Biden and company have received with all of this money. And, people wonder, well, what did he get for his money? Well, it's so obvious, like we had a balloon fly across our country without anything happening to it until it was outside.
Well, they didn't want anything showering down on Americans.
Well, okay. Yeah. And then the other thing is it coming across this border are these, I think they're Chinese. They are Chinese soldiers coming across this country, into this country, and they're probably going into the areas, all the land that they've bought up, and they're going to turn on us. That's what I think is going to happen. That is a part of what the money has paid for. That's why they met him in China and in California, and they've got all the plans in place.
Do you feel safe? Do you feel safe in your own country?
Well, of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. Nobody in this country that's paying any attention at all feels safe.
Right.
It's all over the internet. It's all over the internet. Everybody knows. I mean, to me, the most frightening thing, what's coming across the border, is the terrorists and the Chinese. and they're preparing. But when he came into California and he met with Biden and Newsom, and they're getting everything in place.
Yeah.
They're getting everything in place to turn on us. And we're just sitting back, celebrating Christmas and acting like nothing's coming down the pike. And it is.
So keep your eyes peeled. And when the opportunity presents itself for you to do something, it's a call to action for all of us to do something. And I'm guilty of it as much as anybody else. I'm going to complain, and I'm going to call attention to the things that I don't like and that are happening that are obviously wrong. We've got to do something, and we've got to do it now. So, Diane, I do appreciate you calling, and I appreciate that you
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too, and do something. I would say, Elaine, Mount Juliet. Will you do something when there's a call to action to do something?
I'm kind of leaving that to the younger generation.
Yeah. Okay, what did you call to say?
I called with a comment about the open borders.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I'm of the opinion, I was watching, or I have been watching, some documentaries about these European countries that have all these people in there, and now they're wanting to get rid of them, and they're paying other countries to take them in.
Oh, so do you think that's where they're coming from?
I don't know, but I mean, those in Washington with the say-so seem to be taking money from everywhere else for whatever they can. So why not?
Yeah. I hear you. It's frustrating, Elaine. It is frustrating. I hear you. And
it is.
And I thank you for calling in, and I hope you have a wonderful new year.
You too.
All right, Elaine, take care. It's 2:42, and I want to switch gears a little bit because this is the last 20 minutes, and I have a question. I need some help. My husband and I are new to the Nashville area. I told you before that I live down in the Coffee County area, but not unwilling to travel. Obviously, I'm here. We need something to do for New Year's, and I don't know what's the cool thing to do. Mason, what are you going to do?
I will be working all night long.
All right, I'm sorry I asked.
No, you're good. I mean, I give so many people the touristy answer every time people ask me that. I'm like, oh, go downtown, go to one of the rooftop bars, and then watch the fireworks from across the river.
Oh.
It's a really cool fireworks show. Nashville puts on one of the biggest shows in the country. So it's always cool to see, but everybody is going to be there to see it. And it's going to be freezing. And so if you find a great spot, there are a couple of rooftop bars at hotels I always recommend going to because the ones on Broadway are going to be packed to the brim. The streets are shoulder to shoulder packed for the concerts and shows and stuff down there as well. But if you get a chance to watch it, even if it's just on TV, it is a really cool show if you get a chance to see it.
I love that suggestion. And what kind of shows are I mean, is it just the shows, the typical shows that happen in the bars and in the...
There are those ones. Sometimes they have artists come out for different areas of Nashville. I'm not sure who the lineup is while we take callers and whatnot. I'll look up that list and see if we can find that. I do know Freddie O'Connell is DJing one party. He is our, oh goodness. He just ran for mayor for Nashville. And I think that was the whole point of him trying to get elected is so he could put on his own show, so he could actually show off his musical talents instead of actually doing something for the city.
Yeah. Don't you want to become mayor to lead a city?
I know, right? Yeah. I know. His views were a little questionable when he came in, and I don't know.
Why didn't the voters see that?
I don't know. Maybe they found him online before we did and heard his little music taste. And they were like, maybe we do need this for Nashville.
So somebody said there is, oh man, where did it go? There was somebody that had a really great suggestion about something that drops here in Bicentennial Park. Guitar drop?
I'm not sure about that. I was about to say that we have the ball drop that's in New York. We have a music note that drops.
A music note. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good suggestion. The number is 615-737-9986. What are you going to do for New Year's Eve? And what's a cool thing I mean, I'm okay with doing the touristy thing because we don't know what the touristy things are. And we might be really entertained by that. Somebody else said you can't beat the Blue Oyster Bar for New Year's Eve. Okay. A concert at Ryman Auditorium, consider one of the venues, one of the nicest, I guess, best venues in the world. During the day, museum tours are given and well worth it. The history is amazing. Oh, okay. I like that idea. Somebody else said just sleep. You can sleep for a while. Gosh, that's boring. I want to do something fun for New Year's Eve, and I want to do something Nashville-y, something that, people do when they come to Nashville. That I'm so sure that there's so much to do in Nashville on New Year's Eve, and I really, my husband and I just don't know a whole lot about what this area, and it doesn't have to be Nashville that we're talking about. I told you I would have to travel for it, so maybe there's something else that's not quite as far away from me. We're south of the city. Maybe there's something else that we could do that's, in one of the counties nearby. I live in Coffee County, so I do live quite a bit of ways. So if we could maybe find something between Coffee County and Nashville, that would be really cool. Somebody else said, yes, it's a music note that falls. Stay away from large groups, too many unknowns crossing the border. Well, I have to agree with you. I do think about that when I go out to do crazy fun stuff like that. Columbia has a mule drop. They're known as Mule Town. Okay. I hope it's not a real mule. That's not. It can't be. No?
I sure hope not.
Have you heard of this?
I've not heard of that. I wouldn't think they would drop mules, like live mules.
Can't.
It has to be like a picture, like pin the tail on the donkey.
Right.
It's not a real donkey most of the time.
Oh, it can't be. Chris is in Cool Springs. Tell me what I should be doing on New Year's Eve.
You and your husband need to go on to the Tennessee State Parks website.
Okay.
And find a good park. My girlfriend and I have done this several times. The people are very friendly. The restaurants are clean. They've got a good bar. There aren't a lot of people. It's just a fantastic way, and you're still supporting Tennessee.
That's a good idea. I live near Timms Ford State Park. Is that one of the state parks that you talk about?
I've not been there. We've been to Henry Horton and to Montgomery Bell and Fall Creek Falls, but I've not been. I don't know if they have a lodge, but you can look that up very quickly and see. But I would recommend any of the three that I've been to.
Falls Creek Lodge, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the other ones?
Tim's, Montgomery Bell State Park.
Okay.
And Henry Horton State Park.
Henry Horton. Okay. That's a great idea.
Well, you're very welcome.
That's it's an option to being in a crowded space with a whole lot of people around you. And I kind of like that. Ma'am. Yeah. Okay, good. Cool. Chris, thank you so much. And Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, man.
All right. Somebody else said my family and we build a bonfire. I like that. Make some spending time with the kids. Don't ever know when God is going to take one of you home. Oh, I don't want to think about that. Mule drop reminds me of the Thanksgiving turkey giveaway on WKRP in Cincinnati. Doesn't it, though? That was the greatest episode ever. That's very funny. And I wish I had some audio from that right now because that would have been fun. Sci-Fi Network Twilight Zone Marathon. Okay. That's something. I do have a list of New Year's Eve style movies that came out from Good Housekeeping. And they put something out every year on some of the good movies to watch if we're not going to go out. Nearest Green Distillery in Shelbyville. I love that place. That's a really great suggestion. Not sure what they have planned for New Year's, but you could definitely go on the website and find out. Boy, that's a good suggestion. That came from 3710. Thank you. Good suggestion. I love that place. Been there for their the tastings, and you get a little bit of the history, and the people are kind. That's a great tour to do. We also did the Jack Daniel's Distillery. That doesn't say anything about me. It just says that we like visiting stuff like that and seeing the history, okay? And I'm not going to be defensive about it. Fine. So, yeah, we've got lists of the best movies for New Year's Eve. If we decide to stay in and just, light a fire and sit around watching the TV, there's a couple of movies. And the very first one on the list, I agree with. Snoopy Presents for Auld Lang Syne. And apparently that's a 2022 movie. I didn't know that they made new ones. But then there's a whole list, and some of them I'm so not even familiar with. But if you've got a suggestion, 615-737-9986, or a movie suggestion, please do. Please do give us a call. Let me know. 250 here on The Matt Murphy Show. And I'm Joan Jones. Stick around. Rocking out on a Friday afternoon. Sort of, I guess. It's 2:53. This is the Matt Murphy Show. I'm Joan Jones, and Matt Murphy is here.
Hello.
He's in the house. Hi. So, we don't really know what to do, my husband and I, for New Year's Eve. And so I've asked for some suggestions.
I love the putting the spectacles on. That's good. I
it's
like
the only
that.
way I can see what I'm reading. It's terrible.
I get
it.
I need them.
Eyes.
I just do this.
Yeah.
If you're watching on Super Talk TV.
You're going to get some lines under your eyes. You don't want that.
I've got them.
Yeah. No.
Oh, yeah. I've got the bags going on. Sure. Anyway.
Is there a mule drop? Do you know that this exists?
Mule drop.
A mule drop. They say it's in Columbia at the courthouse.
Would make sense.
All the restaurants will have live music. Everything in Columbia has an underlying mule.
Everybody's got their own thing, right?
Well, I guess.
There's the moon pie drop. I think that's Mobile, Alabama. There's the possum drop.
Yes,
I know of the possum drop.
Yeah.
Of course, we have the music note that drops in Nashville.
Love that.
Makes sense there.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a little of their own things.
Okay. That's fun.
I would not. I don't know that I would go out for New Year's Eve if
Really?
you paid me.
See,
I really don't.
I don't normally, but I feel like we're here, you know, and we
Are you
need to
going?
I don't know.
Are you doing it?
I don't know.
Oh, I would pay you. If you were willing to do it solely so you would come back and report back in
Really?
on what you saw.
Oh,
what happened, what
you
did
know,
not
that
happen.
would be kind of fun to like call in while I'm on the street.
I don't know that it gets as crazy. When it's funny, we'll talk about this on the drive when I take over at 3 o'clock. That I don't know that it gets quite as crazy. I've never experienced in Nashville, Tennessee, and what goes on Broadway on New Year's Eve. I want to know from people who have what they experienced. I know that I've had friends that have done the Times Square deal.
Yeah.
Where you have to, I mean, there are literally people that will wear adult diapers.
Yes.
And stand for 12, 14 hours without a bathroom.
It's sick.
It's just insane.
And
I mean,
even if you could go to the bathroom, would you want to? Like, yuck. When you think about those stalls, and no.
Oh, I thought you meant like in the adult diapers.
Oh, that too. Either way, I don't think the options are very good.
No, I don't think there are any good options there. It really does represent to me what, if there is a manifest hell that exists, that's what it will be for me. It will be me standing in a group of people that large with no good outcome. There's nothing good that's going to come of standing in that large group.
You are germophobic. I mean, we established yesterday that you're
a little bit germophobic. I'm far more crowdophobic.
Okay. So you don't like that?
Even when I'm going to things that I know that I'm going to enjoy, I have to overcome my, it's not a fear, it's just an extreme dislike of groups of people. I sound like such a jerk when I talk to you, Joan. Yesterday, I was like, I don't like
people. A jerk. It's just informative for all of us to know these things about you somehow. Want to talk to James with me for a second?
Let's do it.
James.
Come on, James.
Hello there. What should we do on New Year's Eve? Oh, I think James is gone.
Oh.
Dang.
You want me to do a little voice for James?
Hey,
Joan, what's going on? Hey, James.
That ain't nice.
That ain't Murfreesboro.
Karen, what should we do on New Year's Eve in Nashville? Karen.
Hey, Karen.
Yeah. Hi.
Hey, there is a website called Do 615, and it will tell you everything going on in Nashville.
Say it again. What is it called?
DO 615.
DO 695.
615.
Do 615.
615. I got it. The area code.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? Who was that? Karen.
Karen.
Thank you. I've been here 2 years and I did not know about this website. This is good. Events, best events, and all. This is good.
That will tell you absolutely everything to do in Nashville. All the parties happening, all the rooftops, and everything.
Wow. And is this all the time? It's not just for New Year's Eve, but all the time?
All the time that they're doing it, especially for New Year's Eve.
Are you a party animal, Karen?
No, I wish I was.
Ah, okay.
She sounds like a party animal.
She does.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not being truthful with us. Karen, thank you. And Happy New Year. I hope you have fun this New Year. What are you doing? Before you go, tell me what you're doing.
I'm staying at home with my dog and watching it on TV.
She's not a party animal.
That's the way to go.
Okay, yeah.
If I had somebody to go out with, I would go out and party, but I don't. But I have used this website several times, and I guarantee you will love it.
That's awesome. Karen, thanks so much. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
This is fabulous. They've got a great calendar, and you just go to any day on the calendar, and you select that day, and it will tell you, it lists everything. Now, the one thing that I would consider doing if I had tickets, I do not have tickets. I'm a big fan of a group called Old Crow Medicine Show, and they do an annual New Year's Eve event at the Ryman Auditorium every year.
Oh, okay.
And I would love to go see that show. I would brave the crowds to see Old Crow Medicine Show. But other than that, I mean, there's really not a lot for me down there.
Yeah.
I mean, I can drink at home.
So, Do 615. DO 615.
DO 615. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Okay.
They've got just a list of everything going on, and you can pick a day, and you can find what's going on there. So this is right up your alley. You, your husband. Oh, I can. And I heard your boys.
Yeah.
Who called you?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And guess what? I'm going to be a grandma soon again.
What?
Yes. My daughter
Again?
I have a grandchild already.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
right. That's why you're here.
Yes, that's why
Right?
I'm here.
Mhm.
Yes, good.
Okay.
Good memory.
Yeah.
So my daughter is in Maryland, and she's having Braxton Hicks today. And she was supposed to be on with me, but she's not feeling great. So
Oh,
this is
that's
good,
awesome.
huh?
That's
We'll
congratulations.
We'll ring in
That's
the new
pretty
year with
cool.
a new baby.
Thank you for doing the show. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Yep.
Joan Jones with Matt Murphy. See ya.